Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Maurice Brown Show NFL edition, presented by MAGNOS Dentistry out of Belo Horizonte, Brazil, in the state of Minas Gerais. They bring you the Maurice Brown Show NFL edition, and today we're going to talk about the NFL, and we're going to have hip hop artist Antoine Stewart on the show, as well as Aaron Too Tall Moore a little bit later on in the show. But we're going to take a look at last night's NFL matchup, which was actually, I think, a shocker. On Prime Video, the Houston Texans hosted the Buffalo Bills, and guess what? They won the ball game 23-19 without C.J. Stroud. And you would have figured, okay, well, they can forget this one. And Buffalo loses again in a game you expect them to win. They're 7-4, and they don't look like the team we thought they were before the year began. And they're stumbling around, and you're wondering if they're going to even make the playoffs at this point. One week they look great, like they're supposed to look, the way we think they're supposed to look. And then the next week, they stumble and fall flat on their face to teams that they have no business losing to. I will say the Houston Texans are a team that seems to be getting it together without C.J. Stroud, mind you. The backup, Davis Mills, has them on a 3-game winning streak. And D'Amico Ryan's defense is the best in the NFL at number 1. And they're 6-5. And guess what? They're looking at a shot of getting into postseason, which I would not have figured. However, if you're Buffalo, this is a game you're not supposed to lose. They sacked Josh Allen 8 times in this ballgame. 8 times. And it's just utterly amazing to me that this is happening. And Josh Allen, they call him Superman. He's going to be broken in 5 years if they don't do a better job of protecting him. The only stars on that team are Josh Allen and James Cook. Defense can't stop the run. Again, as I just stated, they can't protect Josh. And they don't have any outstanding wide receivers that make you go, oh, I don't know what we're going to do about these guys. So it's the Josh Allen show. That's not a formula for winning a Super Bowl, in my opinion. But I'm shocked that they're sitting here at 7-4. And on their resume of losses, outside of this one, they have the Miami Dolphins sitting there. And, I mean, arguably the worst team in the NFL, one of the worst teams. So that being said, it's shocking. But Houston wins it 23-19 last night, and no one saw that coming. No one saw that one coming. And so you look at Sean McDermott, the coach of the Buffalo Bills, and you just kind of go, man, you know, Sean, you were not a name before you got this job. Which, after a while, if he doesn't get this team a ring or at least into the Super Bowl in the next 2 seasons, he's probably going to be gone. Josh Allen isn't going anywhere. There is no reason for a team like Buffalo to have a quarterback like Josh Allen to play the way that they do year after year. Records are gaudy, but it's an ugly gaudy, if that makes any sense. And so, you know, and then again, last night, you know, you're playing the Houston Texans, and you know, you lose the ball game. So that being said, we're going to move on past that. The Maurice Brown Show, brought to you by MAGNOS Dentistry out of Belo Horizonte, Brazil. We're going to be joined by hip-hop artist Antoine Stewart and Aaron Too Tall Moore at the bottom of the hour. They will hop on with us. So as we wait on those guys to join us, let's take a look at the Power 5 in the NFL. And I think that this is one of the most difficult seasons to really rank teams in the NFL. Back in the 70s, there was a commissioner of the NFL by the name of Pete Rozelle, who wanted and envisioned parity in the NFL. Not the usual suspects that were going to the Super Bowl or dominating the league. Back in the 70s, it was Dallas always going, or Minnesota, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Oakland Raiders. There were teams that seemed to be in the big game all the time. Believe it or not, the Washington Redskins were one of those teams. So, the NFL became pretty predictable. Year at Miami Dolphins were dominant. And so we have that now, what Pete Rozelle envisioned. Then we have now, I don't know who the big dog is in the NFL right now, to be totally honest with you. I mean, the big dogs we anticipated, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills, they don't look like the best teams in the NFL right now. And you look at Detroit, we expected the Detroit Lions to be dominant. They're not dominant. They're good, but they don't look like it. The Philadelphia Eagles are 8-2, but they don't have that unbeatable shine coming off of them. Like that old adage, any given Sunday, literally exists this season. You don't know who's going to win these games going out. The Green Bay Packers were a highly touted team to start the season, getting Micah Parsons, a gift from Dallas, starting out 2-0 and pummeling two teams we thought were on their way to the Super Bowl for sure, in the Detroit Lions and the Washington Commanders, who have since just disappeared, mostly because of injury. And as the Packers took on that, they're a lock for the Super Bowl aura, then they lose to the Cleveland Browns. And it's like, you can't lose to Cleveland if you're a Super Bowl team. That can't happen. And then a few weeks after that, at Lambeau Field, they lose to the Carolina Panthers. You can't do that. Although we're starting to see that the Panthers now seem to be a team on the come up, and they're sitting at 6-5 with a great shot of maybe sneaking in the playoffs at this point. You have to take the Panthers seriously, is what I'm saying. But you don't expect the Packers, based on how they were touted, to lose to them at Lambeau Field, and that's exactly what they did. And so I could go on and on and on about some of the teams that we thought would be dominating and are not. I was just talking about Buffalo Bills, not dominating at all. They're 7-4, and they're going to probably go to the playoffs, but after last night, you're not so sure. So it's just a weird year. It's very an unpredictable season that we're having. So with all of that being said, let's take a look at the top 5 teams in the AFC, and I have them listed as follows. The Denver Broncos at number 1, followed by the 9-2, the unexpected 9-2 New England Patriots. I don't know how in the world that Drake May's just playing like a big time quarterback. The Indianapolis Colts at number 3. Nobody saw that one coming. And then you have Buffalo at 4, followed by the Chargers. And the Chargers have got to be the most disappointing team in this entire group, because you look at the Chargers. They lost last week to the Jacksonville Jaguars 35-6, and they've lost 2 or 3 other games where you scratch your head and go, wait a minute, I thought they were going to the Super Bowl after winning in Brazil over the Chiefs, and then the following week with another big win over, was it Baltimore? I think was the Ravens. I forget. Also another team that's struggling that we thought would be a lock for the Super Bowl, and they're not there. We have the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Colts in a place where we thought it would be the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens. Take your pick as far as which order, but those were the 3. Only one of those 3 are on this top 5 list, and I would say barely, and it's the Buffalo Bills. And then again, I have the LA Chargers up here, but Do we believe in Denver now? Do we believe in New England now? Do we believe in Indy now? I think we have to. I mean, all three of them are 9-2, and Sean Payton has got the Denver Broncos playing at a very, very high level. We thought that Denver. Well, let me rephrase that. I thought that Sean Payton's treatment of Russell Wilson was totally unacceptable last year, berating him on the sideline in front of a national TV audience. I said, you don't treat Russell Wilson like that. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And as I say that, I wish he would just go ahead and quit now because he's tarnishing his image with every season he stays in the NFL. But that being said, a first ballot Hall of Famer. Sean, you're crazy. And he came out and, didn't really apologize about what how he treated Russell, and proceeded to send him packing the following year, replacing him with Bo Nix from the University of Oregon. And you're like, Bo Nix? Are you kidding me? And proceeded to win with Bo Nix. Sean Payton did. And so you have to look at him and go, man, Sean, you've made a believer out of me. I didn't think you had any idea what you were doing. If you think about Sean Payton, he won a Super Bowl, but he did it with Drew Brees. It's, well, you had Drew Brees. He's a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, sure you won. Well, he's kind of building a championship caliber team in Denver. And I got them at number 1. They just beat the Chiefs last week. A team, again, as I said earlier in this conversation, we expected to be on this top 5 list. Nowhere to be found. They're struggling in the middle of the road. So you look at that and go, man, okay, it's the Denver Broncos. They're up there. And then you got the New England Patriots, who are at 9-2. Drake May is starting to look like the rebirth of Tom Brady, dare I say. I mean, the kid's playing great football, and got the Patriots at 9-2. And you figure they would go away at some point. I know I certainly thought they would go away at some point. Still here. So, and they have a win over the Buffalo Bills on their resume earlier in the season. And at the time, you kind of scratch your head and looking at Buffalo kind of funny. And now you go, whoa, no, New England's for real. And again, they're 9-2. And they're balling out. Mike Vrabel comes in, takes over for a struggling Bill Belichick without Tom Brady, and he revitalizes the franchise. And then you bring in Josh McDaniels as the OC, and he's got Drake May right where he needs to be. You put a quarterback with a lot of skills, which Drake May has, with a coach that knows how to teach him and give a creative offense to the young quarterback, and the sky's the limit. And that's what we're seeing right now in New England as they sit at number 2. At number 3, it's the Indianapolis Colts, another team no one saw this coming. You get Daniel Jones from the New York Giants, and it's like it was terrible in New York, and you don't expect him to do very much. You had Anthony Richardson in Indy, who really didn't look like he was ready. So we'll take Daniel Jones's experience and we'll insert him as the starter. And we've got enough talent around us. Maybe we can figure out how to win 7 or 8 games, maybe get lucky and sneak in as a wild card. Well, as it stands right now, the Indianapolis Colts are looking like one of the best teams in the NFL, sitting there at 9-2. And I will say this and throw out and add that the main reason they're 9-2 is because of Jonathan Taylor, who I think should be pushed for MVP. I mean, he's playing great football, and Daniel Jones is merely taking advantage of that. What Daniel Jones is showing is that if you give him a running game, then he's serviceable. A little bit more than serviceable, even. Certainly not elite, but not the bum that he was being painted as in New York. And that would include me. I had my paintbrush out too, going B-U-M, bum. He's not a bum. Give him some talent, and he's serviceable. And right now, he's doing his thing. Jonathan Taylor to Daniel Jones in Indy is what Saquon Barkley was to Daniel Jones in New York. And the New York Giant organization is an organization administratively with a staff of bums, because you let Saquon Barkley walk out your door. And he proceeded to walk over to Philadelphia and win a Super Bowl. So good job, New York. So I got the Colts at number 3. Daniel Jones's career has been revitalized. I will say, as a caveat to everything that I just said, he has a tendency to have one of those games, even still, because like I said, he's not elite. But he has those games where it's like, Daniel, we're wearing white shirts today. Okay, dude? All right, let's go try this again. And he had one of those 2 weeks ago against the Steelers. They're 9-2. So he's more than serviceable, and they're getting it done. Number 4, I have the Buffalo Bills, because I really don't have anybody else I can pick right now that would be respectful enough for me to put them over Buffalo. So I got Buffalo at number 4. And I've talked ad infinitum already about how disappointing Buffalo has been this year. And then at number 5, I've got the LA Chargers, who are a real head scratcher. And it's got to be something spiritual going on with the Chargers. I can go all the way back to Phillip Rivers, who is a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. They would put up 11, 12 wins year after year, make the playoffs, get bounced first round. And then towards the end of his career, he would put up these monster numbers, and they would win maybe 9 games and lose. The games that they lost was maybe they should have won all of them, and they found a way to lose it. So and you just look at all the talent the Chargers have had over the years, going back to Phillip Rivers, and looking at all of the shortcomings they've had when you thought maybe they're going to win it all this year, and they didn't. The Chargers are still doing that with Justin Herbert. And we figured if Jim Harbaugh got over there, maybe he could turn things around. And for a moment, it did look that way. But now they're starting to look like the same old Chargers. Now they're sitting at 7-4 like Buffalo, and they don't scare anybody. I don't think there's any reason to be afraid of the Chargers. And we got a lot of football left still. Anything can happen, but I would not be overly concerned about the Chargers. Let's go to the NFC. And I have the top 5 teams in the NFC as follows: the Philadelphia Eagles, the LA Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Chicago Bears. Okay, and so we start out with Philadelphia, and they're number 1 at 8-2, and I think deservedly so, because they're the defending world champions, and because they have the best record in the NFC. They have to be number 1. They deserve that respect. But that being said, if I look at the Eagles' play this season, it's been less than impressive, and they've not shown up in a number of games, and barely got out of there with a win. Jalen Hurts has not looked tremendous as the Super Bowl winning quarterback. And as I say all of that, we're going to welcome to the show now. I don't know, Stewart, you ready? We can come back to you.
Yeah, I can go. I was going to just do audio because I was headed back to the house. I'm like 4 or 5 minutes up the street, but I can talk.
Okay. I was just talking about the top 5 in the NFC. I got the Eagles, Rams, Seahawks, 49ers, and Bears. But I was saying the Eagles at 8-2, they deserve to be number 1 because they're defending world champions, but they don't look like a championship club. What are your thoughts on the Eagles?
In the famous words of Ric Flair, to beat a man, you've got to beat the man. I mean, the Eagles aren't playing their best, but they're winning games. And that's all that matters at the end of the day, a win or a loss. You can win the Super Bowl by 2 points or 3 points. You know, they won. They deserve to have that respect as the defending champions. And the scariest part about the Eagles are they're not playing their best football and they're 8-2. That's the scariest thing about them. They have a great record not playing their best. So if they ever figure it out and they lock in, they start playing their best, it's going to be really bad for the NFL because Philly is going to be a powerhouse.
Well, I agree with you. I think Philadelphia is the best team in football. However, there are some things about this team that lends itself to a soap opera vibe. And if they're not careful, it could derail their season, much like it did, 2-3 seasons ago before Saquon got there. You know, this A.J. Brown business is going on way longer than it should. The criticism by the media and fans in Philadelphia of Jalen Hurts as a quarterback is starting to get louder than I think it should. And they're not winning games convincingly. Now, to your point, yes, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And last time I checked, not a lot of teams are beating the Eagles. So, hey, they deserve to be number one. Let me go to number two, and it's the LA Rams. Matt Stafford right now is playing at a championship level. And for my money, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Sean McVay, year after year, takes what he has and makes the best of it, and it's usually a pretty good product. Their only blemish, well, one of their few blemishes, is losing to the Eagles. When you think about the Rams, you don't think about them as a team that can go into a back alley and come out victorious. They're not a back alley brawling team. So they have to get tougher to me if they want to beat Philadelphia. But they've shown enough offense that if you're not really careful, the Rams could sneak into the Super Bowl.
Right. Yeah, man. I disagree, man, about the Rams not being a back alley team because, as you said, when you got a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, he can go into any arena. He's been at them all, and he could put on a performance. Like he won't lose you the game. He won't lose you the game, and that's we can't say that about a lot of quarterbacks. Not lose you the game. He'll go out there and perform, and with the type of weapons he has around him with Puka and your former Green Bay receiver is in what's his name?
Devontae
Can't even
Adams.
think his name.
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams is one of the best receivers in the league. He's getting a little up there in age, but he's still in that prime window to where if he's healthy, cornerbacks do not want to cover Devontae Adams. They want to play off of him. Hopefully, it's a short throw and you get a tackle. But Devontae Adams is one of, if not the best pure route runner in the NFL. And having a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, and along with weapons like Puka, and having a great running game, and having an offensive genius like Sean McVay, that spells a combination of success. The biggest thing is, getting great play from their defense to match them. That may be their weakest link, if they have any, is on the defensive side of the ball. And that's what Philly excels at so much. Their defense, to where Philly offense could not be the best, but that defense will keep them in games and they're able to win those close games. So I think that the Rams could go into Philly and pull up an upset, but they're going to have to play a complete game from start to finish. They're going to have to play complementary football on offense, defense, special teams, and they have to go and have their best performance to go into Philly in a playoff environment and beat that team.
Well, I will say this. They have the resume to get to the Super Bowl and win it all. I question their toughness. I question their toughness against a team that will hit you in the mouth. And Matt Stafford's like, whoa, I didn't see that one coming. And so now he has to respond and stand up and be and be a dog. And in those kinds of games, and there haven't been many, there's not a lot of teams that have hit the Rams in the mouth, but there's a couple. And the Eagles are one of them, where they didn't get up off the mat like you expected them to get up off the mat. I think the Bucks have hit him in the mouth once or twice. The Lions have hit him in the mouth a couple of times, and they don't seem to respond well to being hit continuously. And so I don't know. I'm not saying they're not going to win it all, but I do need to see a little bit more toughness from them. Seattle. The Seahawks I have at number 3 because I feel like right now, outside of those 4 picks that Sam Darnold threw last weekend, they still could have won a ball game. I mean, after throwing 4 picks, they still had a shot to win that game. So I think the Seahawks are outstanding. Sam Darnold's not going to do that every week.
No, absolutely not. With the Seahawks, they go as good as Sam goes usually. And Sam is a good quarterback, but we know when the heat is on and he gets his feathers ruffled, he can throw those interceptions and make those wrong reads and stuff like that. But Seattle's defense is phenomenal. And their offense is pretty good, but they're only as strong as their quarterback. So it's one of those things where as it starts getting colder and games start counting more and teams are really dialing in and getting ready for this postseason, he's going to have to step his play up because the defense is not going to always be able to bail him out like they've been doing. He's been having his games where he does great, but when he's playing against some good competition and not just a walkover type of team, like a team that has a great team themselves, he has to be able to make big plays in big moments and not shrink in those big moments when, teams are blitzing or they start getting them rattled. He has to be able to step up. I know Matthew Stafford can do it. He's been doing it for a long time in Detroit. That's why I was like, that dude, that's a tough guy right there, Matthew Stafford. But I'm not so sure about Sam Darnold. He is he like a Kirk Cousins? Is he a stat patter? Is he a guy who in the regular season he puts on great performances and strengths in the postseason? We gotta the jury is still out on that. Yeah, he has to prove that. We can't give him anything. So I'm curious to see how he performs in these big moments. He has not this week, but soon he'll have to play the 49ers again. We'll see what happens as a divisional rivalry game. And also as we approach the postseason, we'll see if he shows up, how he performs in that.
Well, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Maurice Brown Show NFL edition, brought to you by MAGNOS Dentistry out of Belo Horizonte, Brazil. They are located in the state of Minas Gerais, and they sponsor the Maurice Brown Show. And Americans travel to Brazil often for cheaper healthcare, effective healthcare at that. We've got hip hop artist Antoine Real Stewart on the show. Stewart, are you there? Okay. So Stewart is taking a break with his social media. Hey, Stu, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. So we've got hip hop artist Antoine Real Stewart on the audio portion of the show. So as we continue with the top 5, I've got your 49ers at 4. I think with Brock Purdy being back in action, the San Francisco, and by the way, Brock and George Kittle, whenever those two are hooking up, the 49ers are just about unbeatable.
Oh yeah, that's a great combination. Brock loves George Kittle. He loves the guys that have been there with him, through his emerge into the NFL. And if we're just being real, George Kittle, man, he's usually open. He's a hard guy to cover.
Yeah.
And he has a great set of hands on him, and he's fast and he's big. And with when you got a guy like that, that usually creates mismatches when a linebacker is checking him. Usually for people who are successful at, kind of slowing him down is when you got a top safety and he's able to just probably match him and try to take him out of the game. But when that happens, it opens up other things as well. So that's usually how it goes when it comes to Brock Purdy and George Kittle. And then you add a guy like Kyle Shanahan, who is, great at scheming stuff up, great at putting the things together. Sean McVay was on the Kyle Shanahan's coaching tree. When you got these offensive minds and you give them some weapons, they usually are pretty good at getting the most out of those weapons. So absolutely, George Kittle and company, man, have been great for Brock Purdy. And George Kittle has been a 49er for quite some time now. So he's been through a few quarterbacks, and he was great for everybody. He's just a dog.
And, I tried to look at the fifth position of the top five in the NFC, and there were a lot of teams, 3-4 teams I wanted to stick at number 5, but I couldn't get past the fact that the Chicago Bears, as much as I hate to admit this because I can't stand them, are sitting there at 7-3, and they're the 5th best team in the NFC. Your thoughts?
Hey, Chicago has quietly been good this year. They're not like jumping off the pages still where they're just like, oh, they're so electrifying, but they've been quietly good to where, when you got to play this team, I believe we might play them this year. It's not an easy win. They may mess around and beat you. You got to bring your A game. You gotta come with it. Chicago Bears are evolving. Their quarterback, he's getting more comfortable in the scheme. That team is starting to believe. And when you have a young team that starts to believe, they become a problem for anybody that plays them. And I believe that's where they are right now as a team. And when you see Chicago on your schedule, you cannot overlook it, or you'll mess around and have an L after that meeting.
And you look at Caleb Williams, and I personally thought he was getting too much criticism, and that there were some areas that he needed to improve upon. But it seemed as though everyone wanted to put all the blame at the feet of Caleb Williams. Look at Ben Johnson coming from Detroit, and yes, granted, the guy did a great job with the Lions, and yes, he's an offensive mind. But he has to take account. He wasn't taking any accountability for the struggles. So now the Bears are winning, and the blame of Caleb Williams now has shifted to the praise of Ben Johnson. And that kind of bothers me a little bit, but it is what it is. They're 7-3. They're deserving of the top 5 ranking, I feel. And that's where I have them. They deserve it, and they're winning the games that good teams are supposed to win. And at 7-3, I think that that's exactly what they've done. They've shown everyone that, hey, look, you're gonna have to deal with us because we're gonna be in this one right down to the final stretch. Now, the top 10 in the NFL I have devised as follows. And that's going to comprise of the Eagles, Broncos, Rams, Patriots, Seahawks, Colts, 49ers, Bills, Bears, and Chargers. And again, I've got to put the Eagles at number 1 in the entire league. Because if you think about it, we looked at Kansas City, we talked about Buffalo, we talked about Baltimore, we've talked about Detroit. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then there was even some whispering about Green Bay and Micah Parsons. Well, none of those teams really are where we thought they would be, except for Philadelphia. Okay. Yeah. They are who we thought they were, sitting at 8-2. But at number 2, I got Denver, because nobody saw the Broncos doing this. I thought they would be good, but they're the best team in the AFC. Your thoughts on the Broncos being number 2 on the Power 10?
I'm not mad at it. I kind of like, to be honest with you, I'm kind of starting to feel the Patriots more than Denver. Denver has a great defense, a great team, great defense. But what's his name? Drake May or May?
Drake May.
Drake May. I'm loving the Drake May quarterback play right now. I was just telling Aaron, was that last week or the week before last, that I think the Patriots are emerging as one of the better teams in the NFL, especially on the AFC side. But at the end of the day, you can't go wrong with that list. I think it's pretty solid. And it's something that could change week to week, because it seems like this year, a lot of teams that when you look on the schedule and you see like, okay, that's a must, that's an easy win for this team. Not so easy this year. We've seen some pretty good teams lose to teams they were supposed to beat. And then on the flip side, we've seen some teams that are not that good beat some good teams. So, it's one of those things where it's really literally a week-to-week league. And, we have changes that happen week to week. Philly may drop a spot, next week, depending on their performance. You have to continue to perform at a consistent level. Just like the Chargers. The Chargers had their waves and their moments when they were emerging. They started off slow and then they started getting hot. And then they go back and revert back to, how they started. So it's been a crazy and exciting year of football, because you never know what's going to happen. We have those games where it was just like, yeah, I'm not watching that. We already know who's going to win. It's going to be a snooze fest. And you turn around, you see the score, and you'll tune in because you're like, hold on, the bad team is actually spanking the good team. So it's been an interesting year, and I think you got to tune into these games because you never know what can happen.
Well, Pete Rozelle, commissioner of the NFL back in the 70s, envisioned a league of parity. And I think that's what we have this year. I mean, the term "any given Sunday" this year is literal. Like, yo, you don't know what's going to happen, man, from week to week. I'm like, what's going on out here? Even with Philadelphia being 8-2, they haven't won pretty. They could have lost at least 4 games this year. So it's exciting. You're right. You want to see what's going to happen. And there's some teams that are sneaking back up. I mean, the Houston Texans, the Carolina Panthers. You can't count the Jaguars out. One week they look like garbage. Next week, they're playing ball. Any of these top teams in the NFL can end up with an L hung on them this weekend. So, I agree with you, Stu. It's just one of those years. I think that the Rams, to me, look like they're one of those big dog teams. Like the Rams are scary. The Rams are hitting a stride right now where you're like, if you're not careful, they may be the team in the Super Bowl. And the thing is, your team, the 49ers and the Rams, that's going to be in it. Listen, the Seahawks, the Rams, the 49ers, that might be the most titillating, exciting division in the NFL. Coming down the stretch, all 3 of those, dude, that's going to be a slugfest right there. And with Brock Purdy back, I'm looking at this thing right now. It's got my interest. And I think the Eagles, being presently top dog, they need to be looking over at the NFC West. Okay? That division should be their concern. Okay, I'm not worried about Green Bay. I'm not worried about Detroit. I'm not worried about Tampa. Okay, I'm not worried about them. Okay, but the NFC West is for real.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And then, and as you mentioned, and you got the Tampa Bays who can beat anybody on. They're built like that. Baker, he's playing great. They had recently, some losses that we didn't expect. But we know what type of caliber team they are, especially, Todd Bowles on the defensive side, how they get after guys. So it's been a great year of football. And we might see some upsets in the postseason. You know, it may be those teams that we're like, oh, there's no way they're losing the first round. And you might see some big names get put out against a team that they were supposed to beat because, you know, in the postseason, it's one and you're done. You know, you get to go home and sit on the couch. You don't get, it's not the NBA. It's not the best of seven. So it's going to be real interesting. It's kind of like that college basketball March Madness when you had these smaller schools come in and upset a big school. I believe this year you might have a team that's not so good upset a big team, and then who knows what'll happen after that.
Well, exactly, and you know, you look at all these teams, and you look at the quarterback situation, and
Yeah.
you know, I think if you look at ESPN, they put out a list of the top quarterbacks, the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL this year as it stands, and you may be taken aback, but if you really look at the numbers, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. That list may be pretty accurate, but I'm going to put them up on the screen for you to analyze and tell me your opinion of it. I just hold on a second. I think that if you really look at Dak Prescott, I'll just go ahead and say him. Dak Prescott was one of those players. He's listed as the best quarterback in the NFL right now.
Wow.
Dak Prescott. Yeah. That's a wow right there for me because I put. but think about the numbers that he's put up, and you go, man, okay, they can't stop anybody, so you don't think about them. What are your impressions of Dak Prescott being ranked as the number 1 quarterback in the NFL right now?
I mean, if I'm honest, Dak Prescott's a good quarterback, a really good quarterback. But he doesn't put fear in me. You know, if I'm seeing the Dallas Cowboys in the postseason, it's not just because the 49ers have slapped them up a few times in the postseason, but that really doesn't put that fear like, oh man, the Rams puts fear in me as far as from a quarterback standpoint, because you know they have an elite level quarterback on that side of the ball. You know, Philly, their defense puts fear in people, you know, that elite level defense. But when I'm thinking of Dallas, I'm thinking like, okay, we know Dallas is a good team, but can they show up when it matters the most in the big games? You know, they'll take those little games and they'll blow somebody out and pad the stats and have great stats. But when it really starts to matter, when it starts getting cold, you'll see Stephen A. Smith wearing a hat similar to what you have on now, doing this eerie little laugh, talking about just wait. And then just right on scene, Dallas Cowboy blows the big game. And then you're like, oh my goodness, they do this every year. So, like I said, you got to prove it. We've seen this show before. We've seen Dak Prescott, like a Kirk Cousins, put on great stats, padded seasons, regular seasons. But we need to see you evolve and show up in the postseason, because that's where it really matters. That's where the greats and the elites get that tag on them, is by their postseason play, not regular season. Regular season is cute, it's cool, but when it matters the most, you can't go missing in those games. And yes, they need help. Dallas needs help on the defensive side of the ball. We can't take that from him, but they have to figure out a way to get it done. Dak, great stats, but I really don't. He doesn't put fear in me to where I say he's the best quarterback in the league this year.
Well, and I agree with everything you just said about Dak Prescott, because at any given moment, he can have one of those games, particularly when he gets hot in the kitchen. So at the present time, Dak Prescott is playing like the best quarterback in the NFL. Now, that you can see on our ticker at the bottom of the screen. After Dak Prescott is Bo Nix. Your impressions of Bo Nix, Drake May, Aaron Rodgers, and at number 5, Caleb Williams.
Yeah, these are guys that are playing good football right now. It's a lot of young guys on that list. So it's like one of those things to where they're going to have opportunities as we get into December and January. and we get into that postseason play, they're going to have opportunities to really show what they're built, what they're made out of. And that, to me, that's where you really show. And we have guys that have shown it. They may not be playing their best football right now, but we know, even though the Chiefs may not even make the playoffs, but you know, if you're in the postseason, you see the Chiefs on your schedule, you know it's a whole nother level or caliber of play that's about to come. Mahomes has another gear he cranks into in the postseason, right? Certain individuals, Matthew Stafford, we know postseason. Even Jalen Hurts, you know, he has a certain postseason level. We've seen it. You know, last year he didn't have to do it as much because they were feeding Saquon, and he showed it in the Super Bowl, which is the biggest scene you can do it in. But we got some elite level crunch time guys, and these young guys haven't had a chance. You know, Aaron, he's shown it. I think the biggest thing with him is is he going to be healthy in the postseason? You know, but Caleb Williams, Drake May, Bo Nix, hats off to all those young guys. And I'm loving their development, and I'm loving that they're winning games, and that they're, unlike the Cleveland Browns, their teams have really prioritized their success and development and making sure that they're in the best position to succeed. And I'm happy that those organizations are showing you how it's supposed to be done when you have young quarterbacks with talent.
Now, I want to clarify this list. This list is actually the best QB1s in the NFL when it comes to running the 2-minute drill.
Okay.
So that kind of clears up a little bit of this. But still, it's surprising that these 5 run a 2-minute drill better than the other quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, I think Matt Stafford should be on that list. You know, I don't know how you don't include Matt Stafford. But again, you know, these teams are these quarterbacks are putting up, you know, some good numbers, and their teams are squarely in the thick of the playoff hunt. So you can't really dispute it too much.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense now that you said 2-minute drill. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. These are your best 2-minute drill QBs.
Gotcha.
According to ESPN and by the numbers. But I'm still surprised that Caleb Williams is on that list. That kind of shocked. Whoa, he's 7-3, and he's quietly a guy that's making some noise. Who started off pretty rocky. So it is what it is. Let's turn our attention now, Stu, to what's going to be coming up this week. We got some really good games coming up this weekend, and on Sunday at 1:00, it's going to be the Steelers and the Bears. Now, Aaron Rodgers slightly fractured his left wrist, non-throwing hand, and he's questionable for this game. Pittsburgh at Soldier Field. What's your impressions of this one?
It's going to be a good game. It's one that I know Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin is going to have that defense ready. They're going to need it. If Pittsburgh defense comes out and they're ferocious and they're able to, you know, slow Chicago down, they got a shot to win this ball game. If their defense doesn't show up, I believe Chicago will win this game. So it's going to be a tale of, from a schematic standpoint, can Pittsburgh's defense win the game for them? Get enough stops to allow the offense to do something, because, you know, they don't have Aaron Rodgers this week. So,
yes,
that's how I feel.
And then we've got the Patriots and Bengals. The only reason I have this game as one of the featured games because Joe Burrow is supposed to return to the lineup. How much of a difference do you think Joe Burrow can make in this game against New England? And keeping in mind that Jamar Chase has been suspended for this one.
The biggest thing is how rusty is Joe Burrow.
They're saying he looks great.
Everybody looks great. when you got a red jersey on not getting hit in practice. You know, when you got some live rounds and live bullets and hungry, growling defensive 300+ pound men that are trying to put you on your back and at any means necessary without getting a penalty, you know, it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different level of stress and anxiety, especially coming off of an injury. You don't want one of these 300-pounders to step on your foot, your reconstructed turf toe foot. You don't want, I'm pretty sure they're going to tape it up real good and have the steel inserts and stuff like that. But how is the mobility? You know, when you put on a blitz, is he able to be mobile enough to escape a blitz and make a throw? These are all the things we have yet to see, and that he's not really going to show in practice because the bullets are not live, the rounds are not live. So we're going to really get to see how he does under the pressure of, you know, coming off this surgery and how rusty he is, because that level of stress adds to the overthrows and throwing the ball too high and, you know, seeing ghosts potentially because you're thinking about protecting that injured toe. You know, these are all of the mind games that are going to start to play and set in. So I'm curious to see how he does and how he really locks in and see how healthy he really is.
So that is going to be interesting. I like what you said. I mean, it's different when you don't have that red shirt on. Don't hit me. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And also at Lambeau Field at 1:00, Minnesota with J.J. McCarthy. They go into Lambeau Field to play the Green Bay Packers. Your thoughts on this one?
It's going to be a good game. You know, two teams that have been up and down this year. You know, when J.J. McCarthy has been out there, they've been playing some great ball, some pretty decent ball. You guys, I feel like you're not living up to the expectations that everyone had of the Packers this year. You know, coming off of, you know, having good quarterback play, having weapons, and then adding, you know, Micah Parsons, and just the overall feel and look, we were like, okay, Green Bay is really, you know, on it. So we're going to see. You guys are going to have to start winning these games and really start playing your best football the colder it gets. That's usually when the good teams start to separate themselves from the pack. Is as you fall into November and then going into December, you'll start seeing teams gel, and you'll start seeing that really teams start to click, and they're just like, oh man, they're playing some great ball right now. Something on the offense and defensive side just clicked, and these guys are just locked in. They figured it out, and you guys got to get to that moment soon, because you don't want to walk into, you know, December and still being shaky like that.
No, you don't. And matter of fact, we're fooling around with missing the playoffs. What I have noticed about Jordan Love is he's in his head too often.
Yeah.
And yeah. I think that, you know, me being a Packer fan, I've observed that whenever, going back to last season, when he got injured in Brazil and Malik Willis came in and proceeded to win 2 games back to back. And he came back the third game and got hurt again, I think, against the Jaguars in Jacksonville, and he wasn't playing well. And Malik came in and won that one. And now we got the Vikings. He wasn't healthy, and he rushed back because he didn't want Malik to take his job, or he didn't want to hear the noise about Malik runs the offense better than Jordan. He didn't want to hear that. He came back too soon, and he fell flat on his face. Long story short, we forward to now. He gets hurt in the first quarter and goes to the locker room, and Malik Willis comes in and proceeds to drive right down the field and scores on a like 60-yard drive. So all of a sudden, Jordan's arm is feeling a lot better. And when he got out there, he started balling. So I know that he's been in his head. And sometimes it takes something like that to happen for him to like wake up. Hey, Jordan, be you. You're not Brett Favre and you're not Aaron Rodgers. You're Jordan Love. Go be you. And when he plays like that, he's very effective. You know, he's got to get out of his own head and play ball. To your point, it's getting late in the day, Stu, and it's time for the Packers to start to put together what they have, and that's a quality team. You've got Micah Parsons, and you're wasting that defensive effort that comes out there week after week and stymies offenses. So we're getting late in the game. You got the Vikings coming in, and they're stumbling with J.J. McCarthy. They're stumbling with him. This is a time where the Packers need to put the foot on the pedal and start playing the way that they're fully capable of playing. But again, I have to say, and when Malik got hurt, I'm going to be honest with you, I was like, yeah, I want to see Malik Willis. I want to see somebody go out there and take charge of this highly potent offense.
Right.
And because Jordan's been wasting it. So anyway, that being said, we'll see what happens on Sunday at 1 o'clock at Lambeau Field. Also, this might be the game of the week. You could certainly argue it. The Colts and the Chiefs at 1 p.m. on Sunday. Your thoughts on this one?
It's a must-win game for the Chiefs. They can't really afford any more losses if they want to make the postseason.
Correct.
So I believe that they're approaching this as a playoff game. They're at home. You know, Patrick Mahomes and company, I'm pretty sure the Colts are going to get everything the Chiefs got. I hope the Colts are ready because I'm taking the Chiefs at home. I know the Colts are playing good ball this year and stuff like that. But as I mentioned earlier, when teams start to get in that postseason mode, which who has more experience right now than the Chiefs, you know, and playing in the postseason and winning it all, winning the Super Bowl. So I think that although they've had this has been a horrible year for them.
Yeah.
I think that the Colts are going to get their best shot. And I'm expecting the Chiefs to win at home. I don't know if it's an upset. I don't know what Vegas has the stat line at right now, but I think the Chiefs are going to get it done at home because this is do or die for them.
I'm gonna go back to something you said a moment or two ago about the Chiefs being the Chiefs. At the end of the day, when things start to get real as we wind down the season and then get into postseason, we're going to see the real Kansas City Chiefs. They haven't gone anywhere. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, those guys haven't gone anywhere, and I think we're going to see them rise up. We're going to see Josh Allen and the Bills rise up. We're going to see Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and the Ravens rise up. And I think it's going to make it very interesting. And teams like Denver, teams like New England, teams like the Colts, they're not going to be ready. That's just my prediction because they don't have playoff experience. They're not going to be ready for that time of year. And I think it's going to start this Sunday. The Chiefs recognize that if they don't get it together, they may miss the playoffs. They may miss the party. So, and I think the Colts are going to get a real dose of playoff football on Sunday. And I think the Chiefs are going to take it to them. Now, I'm going to go to the next team, a matchup here, which on paper, I don't think is very much. But when you look at the way these two teams are playing, i.e. Dak Prescott, and then i.e. the lack thereof, although they're winning with Jalen Hurts, I think we're going to see an upset in Dallas on Sunday. Your thoughts?
I think Dallas is going to get their butts spanked.
Okay.
Because I mean, Philly's defense, their defense is for real. Dak is not going to be able to drop back and just toss the ball all around the yard and have fun. And it's not going to be that type of game. It's going to be some dogs in his face hitting him. He's going to be feeling it. Philly's defense is just like that. And, you know, I believe Philly is going to go in there and you know, Dallas hasn't shown me that they're going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. I haven't seen them spank a team of that caliber this year or win a game of that caliber. I've seen them win decent games, and I've seen them beat teams they're supposed to beat. But this is not one of those teams that is going to come in there and it's like the Cowboys are going to do their thing. I believe Philly is the better team overall. Dallas may have some shiny toys, but when it comes to playing complete team football and getting a dub at the end of the day, Philly knows how to do that. They know how to play on the road. Defenses travel on the road. And I think that defense is going to travel to Texas, Austin, Texas, at Dallas Cowboys Stadium. And that running game with Saquon is going to travel. And when you have mentioned the AJ and the media and stuff like that, but I've seen them making an effort to get him the ball more. Is to shut him up, get him the ball. He deserves it. He's your best receiver. Feed your guys. And I've seen them make an honest effort to do that. So I think that Philly's going to go ahead and take care of the division game and take care of business on the road.
I'm remembering the last time these two teams hooked up, it was 24-20. Philadelphia won the ball game, but it wasn't an easy win. I saw the Cowboys stand up in that game. They stood up against Philly, even though they came up a little bit short. I think this time they're going to be in Dallas. And I think they've shown that they can move the ball on anybody. There's not been one team to slow this offense down. They've not been slowed unless Dak Prescott goes out there and has that game we know he's capable of having, where he's going to give it up a few times. And he's had one or two of those. But when he's on, I haven't seen a team in the NFL slow him down.
Right.
So, yes, to your point, the Eagles have one of the best defenses in the NFL, top 2 or 3. But I think Dak Prescott is playing at a high level. He's got George Pickens. He's got CeeDee Lamb. Those guys are clicking and moving the ball. And I just think Philadelphia is looking at a trap game here. Okay. That's all I'm saying. I mean, do I think that Dallas is going to do anything this year? Nah, not really. It's just a trap game to me. I don't like the way Philly's playing. They're not clicking. There's too much noise going on around Jalen Hurts. There's too much talk about A.J. Brown. I'm not hearing anything from Saquon, and I'm not seeing Saquon play the way he did last year. Something in Philadelphia is not quite right. Does that mean they're not going to win it all? No, I'm not saying it. I think they have a very good chance to win it all. But this is a trap game. This is a trap game for the Eagles. That's all I'm saying.
I want to add this too. One observation I've made watching Philly is that they have became comfortable being uncomfortable. Meaning, like, all teams are not built to have your star receiver saying things in the media and the media talking about you. Usually teams start to fall internally when that stuff happens. Philly's built differently. They haven't let that type of stuff stop them from winning. Yes, we agree. They're not playing their best ball right now, but they're still winning games. And most of the time when A.J. Brown is talking, it's after a win. And people are like, well, we won the game. He was like, look, we're not going to keep being able to play this way as we go on to the colder games. We got to figure it out on offense. We can't have our defense saving us, which I agree. That's just something you don't say to the media. That's something I say internally. But I guess he's saying if I say it to the media, they can't ignore it. And people are going to look at it and watch it, and it's working. He's getting the ball more. It seems like they're starting to make the offensive game plan around him more, which we shouldn't even have to be discussing. He's your number one receiver. Usually he's earned the right to say, look, if we're throwing passes, he's our number one guy. Unless you're playing an old school Belichick defense that's going to double team him and take him out of the game, and you're going to have to use your other guys, he's going to get his touches. And for whatever reason, it works for them. It doesn't seem to be really affecting their play on the field as much as it would other teams that are not as mentally tough. And that's the kind of scary thing about them. And one thing I will say about Jalen Hurts, he may not be the best quarterback. He can ball. He got an arm on him, but he is mentally strong. He's mentally strong. He's never too high or too low. He always has this calm demeanor about himself, even in the midst of making a drive in the 2 minutes and you gotta get in position to win the game. He's always even keel, which is a great characteristic, and a lot of the greats have that. And I just think Philly knows they know what they got and they know how to manage their stuff. And until Dallas starts winning these type of games, meaning Dallas needs to win this game to start earning the respect of people who are used to them losing these type of games. And that's how I look at it. I haven't seen Dallas win these big games. And this is a big game against a good team.
You know, we will see. That's going to be 420.
Yeah.
Stu, are you there? Okay. This is going to be this is going to be 425 on Sunday at Dallas. And on Sunday night, we got a really good one between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the LA Rams, 8:20 on NBC. What do you think about this matchup?
Man, that's a great game. What a great game. That may be the game of the week right there. I gotta go Rams at home, but you know, Tampa Bay is tough, man. That defense, Todd Bowles, you know, they get the clicking, and Baker has had some tough losses to where he's coming out with, you know, some extra, you know, feelings, and he's just ready to ball. This is going to be a great game, and it's going to really show who's really the second best team. If the Rams win, they're the second best team in the NFL. Not the NFC, but the NFL. Arguably, maybe the best team in the NFL, honestly. But I think, man, I can't wait to see that one. That's going to be a great matchup.
Well, a couple of things I got to say about that. One, again, I have to say the Rams have to prove to me they can get into a back alley brawl and win. And that would be against Philadelphia. And they haven't proven that. And there's a couple of other back alley brawls they've been in where they didn't come out on the winning side. But that's one. Two, I do agree that the Rams would end up being the second best team in the NFL if they win this game. Bad for Baker Mayfield because he's got a lot of dogs that are hurt. You know, he's not playing with his best out there. He's making do and playing well. And I look at if he had his guy, I think Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I mean, those are his main targets, and they've been hurt for most of the year. And I feel bad for Baker and the Bucs because you're not getting a real and there are more injuries too. I mean, I think one of the running backs has been out as well, so you're not going to really get the full 100 from Tampa. They're going to give you a good game. They're going to give you a good fight, but I don't think they're ready for this game to go and win on the road, particularly on the road. So I'm going to go with the Rams as well in this one. That's going to be Sunday night at 8:20. And as you accurately stated, probably the game of the week. This is a pretty good matchup right here. And then on Monday night, your boys are in action on ESPN Monday Night Football. The 49ers host the Carolina Panthers. Now, I do want to say the Panthers are not a team you want to take for granted. You can come out there with your A game and take them seriously.
Most definitely. The Panthers, they're not a great team, but they play good defense and they play decent on the offense enough to where you got to respect them. As I mentioned, you go in there and not putting on your best foot forward and you'll lose that game. We're well aware of that. And I definitely think the 49ers are going to be well prepared on Monday night at home against the Carolina Panthers.
I think they'll be ready. I think because of the way Carolina's playing right now, it's a very intriguing matchup. I think this is a game that most football fans are going to want to see and be very entertained by because the Panthers, they come to play. And, Bryce Young is playing better. They've got Rico Dowdle. Their defense is pretty decent, which means you have to play ball with Carolina to win. And so I don't think the 49ers are going to lose this game. I definitely don't think that. But I think it'll be an entertaining game for football fans.
Yeah. I agree.
Because Carolina will come with their A game. There's no doubt about that. And I feel good for Bryce Young. You know, a lot of people had written Bryce Young off, called him a bust. And I remember when he came in with CJ Stroud, and everyone was, applauding CJ and saying that Houston made the right move and Carolina made the wrong move. And I just felt bad for Bryce. Here you are, a Heisman Trophy winner, and you're getting all this shade, and people are calling you a bust. And he's on the come up, dude. Bryce is playing better. The Panthers are quietly putting together a nice team. So
the sad reality about that type of stuff is, these players going to these poor organizations and these bad teams, they have a lot to overcome.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Look, if you'd went to Houston, he probably in a way better situation. Houston right now has the #1 defense in the league. A well-coached team. They have weapons. A good team. When you're not on a good team, you got more stuff to overcome. And now you have to overcome and have a learning age with that. Also, you may not have the best O-line. You may not have the best coaches. Your offensive coordinator may not be that good. Your defense may be some trash. So you're trying to overcome all of these obstacles, and your GM and ownership, they need to put together a better team, a better product on the field so that young quarterback can have a supporting cast that he doesn't have to do too much, and he can stay within himself as he's learning. And then when he gets to that level to where he can carry a team, he can do that. But you got to take care of these young guys early on, and going to a bad team is unfortunate.
It is. And again, I'm glad to see that Bryce is on the come up. I'm not sure of the coach's name in Carolina, but he seems to be putting together a pretty nice product, and they're coming along. And again, Bryce's game is coming along. He's learning the game, and he's had to do it the hard way. I mean, he was, again, labeled a bust for all intents and purposes 2 seasons ago, if not last year. And he's putting what actually he was starting to get it together last year. I feel bad for Cam Ward. As you said, all of that stuff. That's where Cam Ward is right now. Cam Ward is in a very bad spot. And I just hope he can weather what he's going through right now, because it's not fair to Cam to have to come in as a rookie and lead an NFL team, to success. I will say something about Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders has been given a very bad hand, and we saw it last week when Kevin Stefanski came out after the game and said that was actually the first time that Shedeur's ever run with the first team. And I'm going, how is it that this first 5th round draft pick who made your team never took a rep with the first team in practice? So he's been set up for failure. Shedeur Sanders has not been given a fair shot from day one. And I hope that he's going to get his start this week. I forget who is Cleveland playing this week. I forget who they play.
They're playing the Las Vegas Raiders.
So this is a game, because he's had the whole week now, I'm sure, with the first team. He's been named the starter. I think we're going to see a different product from Shedeur on Sunday. And hope, yeah.
I definitely want to speak on this. This topic I want to speak on.
Okay.
The Cleveland Browns have to be the worst organization in a professional football.
Okay.
From the owner on down. You got the owner, the general manager, and the head coach obviously not on the same page.
Right.
Okay. The general manager is the one that wanted to draft Shedeur. He is the one that fought to draft Shedeur. The owner said, I don't care. We don't need him. The head coach didn't want him. But the general manager's voice was obviously big enough in that room to have the owner push the button on Shedeur. Now, once you make that decision, the decision is made. He's on your team. He's on your payroll. You have to put him in the best position to win. I'm not saying give him anything, but it's obvious that the general manager and the head coach are not on the same page, because the head coach went on national television and said he didn't know they were going to trade Flacco. Like, I didn't know they were getting rid of Flacco, because that move shows you that they're favoring Shador by getting rid of the vet as Flacco. And when Flacco was the starter, Gabriel got reps with the ones when he was the backup. So now when you trade Flacco and Gabriel is the one, your second quarterback, he doesn't get any play with the ones, not one snap. Anything can happen. That's not even proper protocol. Cam Newton, Shannon Sharp, Ocho Cinco, any NFL player have come on record saying this is not protocol. Any backup quarterback will get some reps with the ones, because you have to make sure that he's ready in case the starter goes out. To not do it at all is a malpractice, and it shows that you don't have him as in his best interest to succeed. You don't want him to succeed, and you don't want him to win. Actions speak louder than words. He should not just be getting first reps when he's about to start now in a real NFL game. As soon as Flacco was gone, he should have, when he went to number 2, remember, he didn't want to even list him as number 2 when Flacco, and they were like, we're the only 2 quarterbacks on the team. Like, you're talking about the practice squad guy, moving him up. You know, as a general manager, you need, if you were the general manager that put your neck on the line for Shador, me and the owner, we're having a good conversation about firing Stefanski, because obviously, and I think that they're showing like, look, no, this is the way we're going, but he needs to go. The Cleveland Browns are not going to the postseason, okay? If they fire Stefanski right now, it's not going to affect anything. Matter of fact, I think they'll be better because their defensive coordinator, who has experience as a head coach, and he's a great coach. I would rather their defense, Jim Schwartz, I would rather him be the head coach of Cleveland Brown and let the offense do the offense, because he's a defensive guy anyway. That way you don't have the head coach who is biased.
The Cleveland Browns right now have the best defensive player in the NFL in Myles Garrett.
Absolutely.
And they are wasting Myles Garrett's career.
Yes.
And you're looking at an organization that refused to let Myles go. I mean, here's a guy that said, I want out of here. And so it proves that Cleveland's not that stupid. You don't let, you don't let Myles Garrett walk out the door. So they do have common sense. That means they know what they're doing with Shedeur Sanders. They know exactly what they're doing with Shedeur Sanders. And I'm going to say this, and this probably is going to be controversial, and I don't care. The Cleveland Browns are letting Deion Sanders know that we have no respect for you, and we want to embarrass you and your family. That's what the Cleveland Browns are doing. Deion Sanders is arguably, and maybe there's no argument, the greatest cornerback in the history of the NFL. Deion Sanders let everybody know that. Deion Sanders played in a World Series in baseball, took a helicopter from one game from the Falcons and went to Atlanta Fulton County Stadium to play a World Series game. People don't like that when you got a gold chain on and braids and you're flaunting it. Well, guess what? He backed it up. Get over it. He had the greatest celebration I've ever seen a player have, whatever he scored. Deion Sanders was literally prime time, and I love him. I love Deion. Yeah. So I feel really bad for him and his family. As soon as his son Shiloh got in Tampa Bay, he wasn't there 1 week, and they cut that young man. And this is a travesty. What the Cleveland Browns are doing to the Sanders family. Period.
And I do want to I want to be clear. And the way I see it, yes, the Cleveland Browns are a jacked up organization, But I'm putting this on Stefanski. Reason being is you see the double-mindedness happening. You don't get rid of a veteran quarterback like Joe Flacco if you're not making a pathway to Shador starting. The Flacco trade was like, okay, Shador really is going to be playing this year because with Gabriel moving to the 1 and Shador the 2, it's bound to happen. And that was coming from the general manager side because remember, Stefanski was unaware. He was like, I was unaware they were going to do this. So that means they're not communicating. That means there's a lack of communication and there are two different sides moving in the organization, and the owner needs to get a grip of it and really affect the hierarchy of, hey, as an organization, this is the way we're moving. All this tit for tat stuff because the GM wants Shador to play and the head coach doesn't. And I don't know how who I know usually general manager, they have control of, the offseason, putting together the 90-man roster and trades and stuff like that. Usually the head coach has control of the 52-man roster and who's going to start and stuff like that. But the owner has control of everything. He's going to have to say, look, we're going to be on the same page about this and move as a unit and not be looking crazy in the media to where it's like you get rid of Flacco. So you're creating a pathway for Shador to start, but yet you got a head coach who doesn't want him to start, doesn't respect him. I don't know if he's fearful of Shador doing well and them trying to get Dion as the head coach. I don't know what he's so afraid of, but it's like you guys drafted him. I know he didn't want to draft him, but guess what? The owner signed off on it and he got drafted. Now give this guy on your team the best, put him in the best position to be successful as a team, because if he looks bad, that's just going to fall on Stefanski. Everyone's going to highlight how he wasn't getting the reps, how he wasn't prepared, how all of these things. And I think Stefanski knows that he's on his way out of the door. And I don't think he really cares because, as we all know, coaching contracts are fully guaranteed. You can hire me today, give me a 5-year deal, and fire me tomorrow, and you're going to have to pay me that 5-year deal money. So it's a nice safety net that these coaches have. So I think that's, to be honest with you, I think that's kind of how he's approaching it. He's like, I'm just going to get myself fired. I'm still getting paid anyway, and I'll find another job next year.
Well, it's a real shame because I think Kevin Stefanski has a great football mind, and it's being wasted for whatever the reasons are. I mean, I fault the entire Cleveland Brown organization. But that being said, I'm going to let that lie. And I want to thank you, Stu, for being on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking NFL football on the Maurice Brown Show, presented to you by MAGNOS Dentistry out of Belo Horizonte, Brazil, in the state of Minas Gerais. And also want to let everybody know that I have been nominated for the 4th time this year for my short film, Unknown Kingdom, out of India. The Shepherd's International Christian Film Festival from India nominated my short film, Unknown Kingdom, for Best Short Film. And that will be held early next year. And also I just finished shooting this film, short film, Chance, with Carter Nelms, and an actor out of Nashville, Tennessee. We are in post-production right now, and I got a great feeling and a great vibe about that film. Can't wait until that product is finished. So those are some of the musings that I have going on in my entertainment careers. We have Antoine's hip-hop artist, Antoine Stewart. Tell us a little bit about Christian hip-hop and your career.
Yes, sir. So I have my album, Rapture Ready, coming out. It's looking like the beginning of next year. We're right here at the line. I have my Christian clothing line called The Remnant Apparel, which will be dropping soon. And I say follow me on AntoineStewartMusic.com. All of my social media platforms are on there to stay in tune when the next time I'll be doing live performances and worship ceremonies. So, yep, that's what I got going on right now.
Sounds good, Stu. Sounds good. So we were going to have Aaron, too tall more on the show. Hopefully next week. He's been very busy as of late, but hopefully next week we can have Aaron Moore back on the show. But until then, everybody stay safe. And Stu, I'll see you next week. Everybody enjoy the games, including college. We've got some big college games coming up this week as well. So until the next time we meet, may the peace of Jesus Christ be with you and your families, everybody out there. God bless.